Hey guys, your boy Little Rock, and we're back with another video. Today's video we're gonna talk about is the video that I'm showing you right now. The reason why I was been talking like that because my wife she's doing stuff, so that's the reason why I wasn't really talking on the video. So that's the reason why. So we're gonna get into the video and we're gonna look at it and we're gonna get a reaction of this. Thank you guys for watching the last video. That one has like what 87 views on that in one day. So that's kind of good. I'm happy for that. So we're gonna keep going more. All right. This video right here is crazy too. So if you like the first one, you're gonna definitely like the second one too. But it's kind of sad.
On Crime Watch Daily from here in New York. A 9-year-old is led into the woods. She doesn't know it, but she's being lured to her death. The victim of a chilling thrill kill.
I don't think it mattered who it was going to be. It was just going to be somebody.
The key clue, a detailed and diabolical plan. A literal diary of death.
We could make out two words: kill and throat.
Leading to the most shocking suspect ever.
Have you ever seen anything like this?
One of the most reprehensible motives for murder that exists in humankind.
Plus,
do you remember this? Justice!
Two parents at war over their missing little girl. Why this mother needs to declare her daughter dead to find out if she's alive.
A part of me always wonders if she was yelling out for me. It haunts me every day.
Right now.
Andrea Isom, sir, with Crime Watch Daily.
Jason Matera with Crime Watch Daily.
This.
I'm Elizabeth. I'm here with Crime Watch.
I'm Michelle from Crime Watch Daily.
Anna Garcia from Crime Watch.
Is Crime Watch Daily.
Stay off my property. We'll find you again. We always do.
Welcome to Crime Watch Daily, everyone. I'm Chris Hansen. We start today with a missing girl, a dangerous predator lying in wait, and a diary of deadly intentions. For that, let's head out to our Melissa McCarty. Hey, Melissa.
Chris, 9-year-old Elizabeth Olten went missing from her home, and what police would uncover in the next few weeks would rock this Missouri town.
The thrill?
I wonder what it would feel like
to kill. It's a deadly attack on innocence. And finding the person responsible,
I was shocked. It was crazy.
will lead detectives into the heart of darkness.
Walked her into the woods, telling her, I've got something really neat I want to show you.
Obviously, the heartache is still as great, you can tell.
It's about a week before Halloween, and the residents of St. Martin's, Missouri are about to discover that not all monsters are make-believe.
Have you ever seen anything like this?
I never have, and I hope never to see another case like this.
It seems stupid now that we didn't do more about it, but there's no way I could have known.
There was no way anyone could have known. It's a typical Wednesday night at home for Patty Price and her 3 kids, Anthony, Stephanie, and the youngest, 9-year-old Elizabeth Olten.
Well, she was going to be in a play at school, so she was practicing her lines and doing her little songs and irritating her brother. And I was getting ready to cook dinner when
There's a knock at the door. It's a 6-year-old girl who lives across the woods.
she had asked if Elizabeth could go play. And originally I told her
Shouldn't let her
no
go.
because I was getting ready to make dinner. And both girls hopping up and down, begging, wanting to go play. It's like, okay, you can go for an hour. So she had to be home by 6.
It is late October and the sun sets at 6:30. Patty knows her daughter Elizabeth will be back and on time for dinner because she's deathly afraid of the dark. In the deep and dense woods that separate their homes, turn into a scary place once night falls.
Now, Elizabeth was not a type of girl who would walk in the woods by herself.
But when 6 o'clock rolls around,
She didn't make it home.
immediately Patty calls up to her neighbor's home. And that's when she gets some startling news.
They told me she wasn't there. I just knew it wasn't right. They left together, and the grandmother was telling me she was never there.
Never there?
That's when I called the police.
The Cole County Sheriff's Department is on scene in just 15 minutes. Sheriff deputies and Patty head over to the last known place Elizabeth was going, her neighbor's house.
everybody up there said she wasn't there. So then they started doing a search. They called in like the fire departments and local officers. And by 10 o'clock, there was probably hundreds of people looking for her.
Teams of concerned residents and local law enforcement agencies form a grid search around Patty's home and her neighbor's house.
They had several groups of people. They had a command post set up the road.
But Wednesday night is slipping away and still no sign of Elizabeth.
Because they kept telling me there was no signs of foul play. It's like she didn't just vanish. She's 9 years old.
Patty knows Elizabeth has her cell phone with her, and she's been calling it nonstop since her daughter disappeared.
And go to voicemail.
Then investigators contact the cell phone company and order what is called an emergency ping, basically signals generated from the phone to the nearest cell tower. The data is collected and used to zero in on the precise location of a cell phone. And in no time, sheriff deputies start receiving pings from Elizabeth's cell phone. 1, 2, then moments later, a third and final ping from the missing 9-year-old's phone before it appears to go dead. And its location?
The pings from the phone all were located in the general area of the woods. It was a large wooded area behind the house, but it's thick forest ground and it was a lot of area to cover.
They're going to need backup.
It was the following day in which my investigative unit became involved and was contacted to assist in the search. I believed she was still in the area.
Still, he had to consider the other horrifying possibilities.
She had been grabbed perhaps by a kidnapper or a child molester. So we were also pursuing the possibility that maybe somebody grabbed her and put her in a car.
A missing persons report is sent out to neighboring law enforcement agencies and the FBI.
At that point during the investigation, the FBI was involved, Cole County Sheriff's Department was involved, the Missouri State Patrol was involved. There were somewhere in the neighborhood of about 300 volunteers from the community that came together.
And when you consider there are only 1,100 people in St. Martins, Missouri, the number of people searching for Elizabeth is massive. It's a third of the town.
What was it like to see hundreds of people searching for your sister?
Crazy, like unbelievable. Like that many people would come to look for somebody.
We had checkpoints set up all around the area for everyone driving into and out of the area. We tracked down all the local registered sex offenders. We had planes in the air, helicopters, dog teams, dive teams for the ponds and rivers. Everything that we could do at that time, we were trying to locate her.
But now it is Thursday afternoon and almost 24 hours since anyone has seen 9-year-old Elizabeth Olten. Sergeant Rice turns his attention back to the last person to see Elizabeth, the 6-year-old little girl and neighbor who knocked on the door to see if she could play. Her name is Emma, and she lives just a few houses down from Elizabeth.
What was Emma like?
She was a little bit younger. They played dolls, just normal little girl stuff. They'd run around, play outside.
And what could this child just out of kindergarten possibly know about Elizabeth's disappearance?
Emma was interviewed by the FBI, and Emma simply stated that she was playing with her friend Elizabeth, and about an hour later, Elizabeth started walking home, and that was the last she saw of her.
Or was it? Coming up.
She kept that pretty secret.
Does Elizabeth's 6-year-old neighbor know more than she's saying?
Don't tell anyone.
Or is there someone else entirely?
We just met our suspect.
Little Elizabeth Olten answered a knock at the door. Who knew that seemingly innocent moment would change everything forever? For more on her story, let's head back to our Melissa McCarty.
9-year-old Elizabeth Olten is missing. She was last seen on her way to play with her 6-year-old neighbor, Emma. It's now late Thursday, and it's been over 24 hours since anyone has seen or heard from the 4th grader. Her best friend, Taylor, is worried.
What was that last moment like that keeps replaying?
I remember her getting out of the seat and walking towards the front of the bus, and she turned around, smiled, and said, "Happy birthday, Taylor," and then got off the bus and walked into her house.
Investigators continue to talk to Elizabeth's neighbor Emma, who tells them that after playing for an hour, Elizabeth headed home. But now the 6-year-old is adding to her version of events.
She was outside playing with Elizabeth, and then shortly after that became stuck in some thorn bushes and was crying and screaming for help. Was crying for her sister, saying, "Alyssa, come help me."
Alyssa, as in 15-year-old Alyssa Bustamante, Emma's older half-sister. The rest of the siblings include Emma's 11-year-old twin half-brothers, as seen in this home video. All 4 kids live with their grandmother and legal guardian, Karen Brooke. But often, the Bustamante and Olten children could be found playing at each other's homes.
Was it common for Elizabeth to go and play with Emma?
Yes.
The brothers hung out with your son, is that right?
Right.
And during the time Elizabeth goes missing, all the neighbor kids are accounted for. Well, most of them.
Only left one person.
Alyssa Bustamante.
She admitted that she skipped school that day, was aware that law enforcement couldn't find this girl, but stated she knew nothing about it whatsoever.
During initial questioning, cops find Alyssa's behavior seemingly calm and forthcoming.
She was not, should not be considered a suspect.
Meanwhile, searchers continue to canvass the woods behind the Bustamante home, the same area where Elizabeth's cell phone transmitted its final pings.
It was a big deal. Everyone was shocked. This is a small rural community in Missouri, and those things just don't happen in those areas, so people were scared.
But it's about to get even scarier when local volunteers stumble across something in the backwoods.
Appeared to them to look like a grave in the woods, and that's when my investigative unit became primarily involved in it. We were called and asked to process the scene for the possibility that Elizabeth was in that hole, was in that grave.
Sergeant Rice and his forensic team processed the potential crime scene.
We had been out there for several hours, and it was during that time the FBI had been interviewing Alyssa initially, and they brought her to the scene. And I remember watching 2 FBI agents I know walk a young girl over to the scene.
That's when the sergeant overhears something odd.
I heard Alyssa say she dug the hole. And of course, my response to that was, "Why did you dig the hole?" And Alyssa said, "I just like digging holes," and would bury dead animals when she found them.
And what or who was in this possible makeshift grave that Alyssa admitted she dug up for fun?
No one was in that shallow grave.
No Elizabeth. And time is ticking on this missing persons case, now nearing the 48-hour mark. Still, Sergeant Rice is suspicious of this empty hole. He notes it is the perfect size for a small child, just like Elizabeth. Simultaneously, back at Alyssa Bustamante's home,
The FBI obtained that consent to search the Bustamante home, and one of their evidence officers was assigned to search Alyssa Bustamante's room.
and when the agent opens the teenage girl's bedroom door, it's a spine-chilling sight.
She found several things in that room to be disturbing.
The walls are covered with bizarre writings, some of them in pen and others, it appears, in blood. In one corner of the room, there is a poem about cutting, which is a form of self-injury, usually involving a knife or razor blade. In the poem, one line reads, "I cut to see blood because I like it." Alyssa's best friend, Jennifer, knew about her high school friend's sadistic secret.
I actually consulted one of our friends, and he talked to her about it. We noticed a lot of scars on her wrists. She talked about suicide a lot. I know that she had attempted it a couple of times.
Then on another wall, there's a crude sketch of a person. The head and arm appear to have slice and slash style markings. A closer look, and there's a name by the deranged depiction, Emma. That's right, Alyssa's kid sister.
I don't know what you say to that.
There are also cards and letters taped to Alyssa's bedroom wall from a Cesar Bustamante. The return address, prison.
Her father was in prison. He had gotten into some kind of physical altercation, and her mother was on drugs a lot. She was in and out of her life.
Then the FBI agent spots something else in Alyssa's bedroom.
A diary in the room, a journal.
And when the investigator starts to read Alyssa's diary, the words jump off the page for all the wrong reasons.
Disturbing things that referred to burning down a house and killing the people in it. And then she noticed the last entry of the journal had a date of Wednesday, October 21st.
The very same day Elizabeth disappeared. And what does it say?
It appeared to be marked over in blue ink, a blue ink pen obliterating over what was written, except for the last part of it said, "Now I've got to go to church, LOL."
Coming up,
She knew that we had read it.
the teenage girl is confronted with her own words.
Slit and throat.
And evil is unearthed.
You could see a body part that was covered up with dirt.
We return to today's Crime Watch Daily murder mystery. A 9-year-old girl remains missing, but police believe someone might know where she is. A teenage girl who lives down the street, and to say what they found in her room is disturbing would be a huge understatement. Here's Melissa McCarty.
Missouri 4th grader Elizabeth Olten is still missing. And when investigators searched her neighbor's home, they uncovered disturbing writings in the diary of the oldest sister, 15-year-old Alyssa Bustamante. The agent collects the diary as potential evidence. The next morning, now Friday, and 2 days since Elizabeth went missing, Alyssa is brought to the FBI headquarters for an interview with Sergeant David Rice.
In combination with her strange behavior, I was confident that we were going into an interrogation at some point.
But just before he goes in, the sergeant is handed Alyssa's diary.
The last entry of the diary, which was the day that Elizabeth went missing, was completely scratched out.
But this cop is determined to bring darkness into light.
Using backlighting, we could make out 2 words.
Slit and throat.
Armed with potential incriminating evidence, it's go time. Alyssa, her grandmother, Sergeant Rice, and a juvenile officer file into the interrogation room. Sergeant Rice decides to take it slow and easy, but mostly slow.
By asking Alyssa certain questions and then just waiting.
And waiting.
Silence is very effective during an interview or interrogation because people feel very uncomfortable in silence. There were pauses, I believe, that were up to 45 seconds to a minute long. And you could see the stress affecting Alyssa. You could see her eyes begin to tremor and her head begin to shake.
And then right when the sergeant thinks she might break,
"We have your diary and we've read your diary, even the last entry in which was scribbled out." And I just waited.
the effect is immediate.
Once I brought up the diary, I could see a distinct shift in her demeanor, and I think it was that point that she knew that we knew.
And that's when Alyssa finally starts to reveal what happened to Elizabeth. She tells Sergeant Rice it was an accident. She said they were walking in the woods when Elizabeth fell, hit her head, and suddenly died.
I explained to Alyssa that we were going to recover the body, and the autopsy would show every injury.
And he has a pretty good idea of what one of the injuries could be.
Due to the comment or the word that we read from her diary,
That's when he asks Alyssa a direct and damning question.
Was her throat cut? And Alyssa said yes. And that's when the grandmother broke down and began crying.
It's a huge break in the case. Alyssa's grandmother leaves the room and the 15-year-old comes clean.
She said she sent Emma, her sister, over to the Olten household to pick Elizabeth up. From that point, she claimed that she told Emma to go back home and that she took Elizabeth by the hand and walked her into the woods.
It's a quarter-mile and 15-minute walk into the woods, leaving plenty of time for Alyssa to think about what she is doing and stop. But she continues on, holding the 9-year-old's hand and saying,
I've got something really neat to show you. It's just a little bit further up here.
Unbeknown to the little girl, Alyssa is armed with a kitchen knife and is leading her towards a pre-dug grave.
Alyssa said once she arrived at the side of the hole that she began to strangle Elizabeth while she was facing her, that she strangled her multiple times and stabbed her in the chest, I believe 6 or 7 times, and then cut her throat.
After her confession, Alyssa agrees to take Sergeant Rice to Elizabeth's body. Rice takes me along into the same woods where he retraces and recalls that fateful day.
She knew exactly, where it was, led us directly to it.
Was it well covered?
It was not well covered. Once she pointed out the area and you looked a little bit closer, you could see that she was only a few inches, if that, under the ground, and you could see body parts that came up, covered with mud. It's a pretty horrifying homicide.
Then the results of Elizabeth's autopsy come in, and they appear to mirror Alyssa's diabolical diary. Investigators use a blue light to finally reveal her last entry on the day Elizabeth disappeared. It reads in part, "I just expletive killed someone. I strangled them and slit their throat and stabbed them. It was amazing. It's pretty enjoyable. I gotta go to church now, LOL."
This was very premeditated by the 15-year-old murderer because she had dug the grave holes at least 5 days in advance of the murder. And it was premeditated in the sense that she sent her sister down to get Elizabeth out of the house for the purpose of murdering her.
A premeditated and planned murder meets the legal requirements for a first-degree murder case. But what about her age? Alyssa is just 15.
She was certified to stand trial as an adult, and a Cole County grand jury heard evidence in the case and returned an indictment of 2 counts, murder in the first degree and armed criminal action.
And sadly, the signs of a troubled teen seemed to be there all along. Alyssa appeared to like hurting herself and others. On her YouTube page, Alyssa lists under interest and hobbies, killing people and cutting. And in one video captured on a school bus, she threatens to shoot a classmate.
And a week before she killed Elizabeth, Alyssa takes to her journal and writes, "If I don't talk about it, I bottle it up, and when I explode, someone's gonna die." But perhaps the biggest warning sign appears at Alyssa's own 15th birthday party. She is hanging out with her best friend Jennifer when she says,
I just wonder what it would be like just to kill someone. See the life just drain out of someone. I wonder what it would feel like, that type of power, to take that away from someone.
That is one of the most reprehensible motives for murder that exist in humankind, and that is to murder a person for the thrill of murdering them.
2 years and 4 months after the fateful events that rocked the rural town of St. Martins, Missouri, a trial date is finally set. Then the prosecution gets an unexpected setback to their case, and it's a big one.
The defense filed a motion to suppress the confession.
Alyssa's defense team claims because she was a juvenile, some of the questions asked during her interrogation weren't allowed under Missouri law. The judge agrees, and Alyssa's confession is thrown out.
Having the confession suppressed was a huge blow. This was a clear first-degree murder case.
And there's another big blow to the prosecution's case on the horizon. The U.S. Supreme Court is about to likely rule that life sentences without the possibility of parole for juveniles is unconstitutional. So prosecutors offer up a plea deal to the defense, an amendment to murder in the second degree with a range of 10 to 30 years or life imprisonment with the chance of parole.
I notified the mother and the family that that's what I had determined to do.
I was mad. I was very mad.
Alyssa's defense team accepts the plea deal. During the sentencing phase, she addresses her victim's family and states, "I cannot even understand what you guys are going through. I'm sorry for that. If I could give my life to bring her back, I would, and I'm sorry."
I don't think she can be sorry. I don't believe anything that she says.
She was being fed what to say to us from her attorney, so none of it was real.
Bustamante was sentenced on the murder charge to life in prison with a chance of parole, plus 30 years for armed criminal action. Under Missouri law, she will serve 35 years and 5 months before she will be eligible for parole. Even her one-time best friend wonders now if that's enough.
I don't think there is anywhere that she should be besides prison ever, because you just can't get away with something like that.
Is there anything you would say to her if she was watching this?
That I hate her, that she's ruined everyone in my family's life.
She changed everybody's life so drastically. It's not fair. She shouldn't be sitting in prison. She should die too. I don't care how old she was. Age didn't have anything to do with it. There's no rehabilitation for her.
Following Alyssa's conviction, Elizabeth's mother filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Bustamante's grandparents and siblings. She was awarded $400,000 in a settlement. She's also sued Alyssa herself to ensure that the killer teen cannot profit from her crime. No books, no movies, nothing.